The louder, the better, they say. You are told that you have to speak up, to be heard, to exert influence, to assert your position, be loud, be present, argue constantly. But what if that is a mistake? What if your silence at certain crucial moments unleashes a power that speaks louder than 1,000 words? What if your conscious choice not to speak causes people to pause, listen, and follow you, yes you, because they perceive your silence as deeper wisdom or inexplicable strength? Stay tuned, because we are now going to decipher one of the best-kept secrets of human interaction, inspired by the profound insights of Carl Gustav Jung. We will discover why your aura, your personal charisma, grows when you learn not to speak at the right moments, and when exactly you should say absolutely nothing. So be sure to watch until the end. We all know this. We often talk too much. We fill awkward pauses with trivialities. We justify ourselves, explain ourselves, try to convince or manipulate others with words. We babble out of nervousness, out of fear of rejection, out of a need to be seen and heard. Carl Jung spoke of the persona, the mask we show to the world. We often use words as part of this mask. We hide our insecurity, our true feelings, our inner emptiness behind a torrent of words. But the more we talk to impress or control, the more we often lose touch with our true core, the self, as Jung called it, the center of our psychological wholeness, and the less authentic and powerful we appear to others. Genuine charisma and true authority do not stem from loud words, but from a deep inner centering that often manifests itself in silence. I hope you're still paying attention. Now let's get into the details, followed by the first concrete situation in which it is better to remain silent. Jung was fascinated by the power of the unspoken, the symbolic, the numinous, that mysterious, awe-inspiring quality that touches us deeply and often lies beyond words. Silence, used consciously, can create such a numinous space. When you remain silent in a tense situation while everyone else is talking or expecting a response from you, you break the pattern. You create an empty space. And into this empty space, others inevitably project their own unconscious content, their fears, their expectations, their hopes, their shadows. Your silence becomes a mirror in which others must recognize themselves, whether they want to or not. By not reacting, you force others to break out of their usual patterns and confront what is really going on inside them. This can be deeply unsettling for the other person, but this is often the key to changing the dynamic. Your silence takes the wind out of the conflict's sails, exposes manipulation, and creates space for genuine insight in the other person and in yourself. Let's start with the first situation. When exactly are these situations in which conscious silence is worth its weight in gold and gives you unexpected strength? The first situation, when you are confronted with an emotional outburst from another person. Someone is yelling at you, accusing you, beside themselves with anger or grief. The instinctive reaction would be to defend yourself, yell back, argue, appease, or analyze the other person's emotions. But all of that often just adds fuel to the fire. It feeds the other person's emotional storm. If instead you remain calm, take a deep breath, and consciously remain silent, not dismissively, but present and observant, something remarkable happens. Your silence takes away the resonance of the other person's emotions. The outburst fizzles out. Your counterpart is confronted with the intensity of their own feelings without you mirroring or amplifying them. This unexpected silence often causes the person to pause, observe themselves, and calm down more quickly. Your silence does not signal agreement, but a confident refusal to be drawn into the emotional drama. You remain the rock in the storm, and that gives you a quiet authority. Now that we have highlighted the first key situation, I would like to pause for a moment. You may be thinking, that sounds interesting, but also difficult. Or, isn't that passive? I assure you, what we are discussing here goes far, far beyond simple communication tips. We are touching on the deepest mechanisms of our psyche and the energetic laws that shape our relationships. Understanding when and how to remain silent is not a technique. It is an art based on self-knowledge and inner strength. If you really want to learn how to increase your charisma, diffuse manipulation, and find a deeper connection to your own source of power through conscious silence, then it is crucial that you stick with it. The following situations and the explanation of why your aura grows in them are at the heart of this knowledge. It is an investment in your personal sovereignty. The second situation in which silence means power. When you are exposed to manipulation. Someone tries to make you feel guilty, twists facts, questions your perception, or tries to control you subtly. The manipulator expects a reaction, justification, anger, confusion, giving in. If you engage in a discussion, you are already in their trap. You are trying to fight logic with a strategy based on emotional and psychological deception. If, instead, you remain silent after recognizing the manipulation, you deprive the manipulator of their power base. Your silence says, "I see through your game. I'm not playing along. Your words have no power over my reality." You give them no points of attack, no confirmation, no emotional reaction to feed on. This unexpected lack of response can deeply unsettle the manipulator. They no longer know where they stand with you. Their script isn't working. They will often either change their tactics, overreact, and thus expose themselves, or retreat because they sense that they are getting nowhere with you. Your silence here is an act of self-respect and protection of your psychological boundaries. The third situation, in negotiations or power dynamics where the other side expects a certain reaction from you in order to gain the upper hand. Think of a salary negotiation, a business dispute, or even a family discussion about important decisions. Often the other side will try to pressure you, provoke you, or present seemingly irrefutable arguments to get you to agree quickly, give in, or react emotionally. If you consciously pause and remain silent at a critical moment after a proposal or demand has been made, you shift the dynamic. Your silence signals thoughtfulness, control, and a refusal to be pressured. It forces the other side to fill the silence, perhaps become uncertain, reconsider their position, or even make additional concessions just to end the uncomfortable silence. Your silence gives you time to think, regulate your emotions, and formulate a thoughtful response. If you appreciate this information, please let me know in the comments. We will now discuss 2 more situations, and then I will explain why your aura grows so enormously through silence. The fourth situation, when you receive unsolicited advice, judgments, or criticism. Especially in later life, many people may mean well, but their advice or evaluations can be intrusive, patronizing, or simply inappropriate. The impulse is often to defend yourself, explain your position, or try to change the other person's mind. But this rarely achieves the desired result and only costs energy. Instead, if you consciously remain silent after a brief, neutral, "Thank you for your point of view," or a simple nod, you set a clear boundary without provoking conflict. Your silence signals, "I have heard you, but I reserve the right to make my own decision. Your opinion does not define me." You do not validate the criticism or advice by responding to it, but simply leave it hanging in the air. This often takes the wind out of the other person's sails and preserves your inner peace and autonomy. The fifth situation, perhaps the most subtle, moments of deep connection, shared insight, or genuine presence. Sometimes there are moments, in a conversation, in nature, while listening to music, in a quiet hug, when words would destroy the magic of the moment. Every word would be too much, a trivialization of the experience. In such moments, shared silence is not a lack of communication, but the highest form of it. It is an expression of deep understanding, of resonance on a level beyond the mind. Old souls with their deep sensitivity often intuitively sense when words are superfluous and silence holds a deeper truth. This silence nourishes the soul and strengthens the connection to oneself, to others, or to the universe. But why exactly does your aura, your personal charisma, your presence grow when you consciously remain silent in these moments? There are several reasons which can be understood both psychologically and energetically to spiritually. Firstly, energy conservation. Every word, especially in emotionally charged situations, consumes mental and physical energy. Justifications, arguments, emotional reactions, all of these drain us. Conscious silence, on the other hand, conserves your valuable life energy. You don't waste it on unnecessary conflicts or pointless discussions. This saved energy is available to you for your own inner balance, your creativity, and your conscious actions. You feel more centered and powerful. Second, strengthening your inner center, self. When you remain silent, while external storms rage or provocations rain down on you, you practice connecting with your inner core, yourself. You learn to observe your emotions without being carried away by them. You learn to control your impulses. You cultivate inner peace and stability. Every time you consciously remain silent, instead of responding reactively, you strengthen this inner muscle of centeredness. Yourself becomes an unshakable rock in the surf, and you radiate this outwardly. Thirdly, unpredictability and mystery. People who always react immediately are predictable. Their behavior can be easily predicted and manipulated. However, when you learn to remain silent, you become a mystery. Others don't know what you're thinking or feeling, or what you're going to do next. This unpredictability gives you a certain power and a protective shield. Manipulators find it harder to get a grip on you. Others become curious, perhaps even more respectful, because they sense your depth and self-control. Fourth, space for projection. The mirror effect. As already mentioned, your silence forces others to project their own inner thoughts into the empty space. They don't see you, but their own fears, expectations, or unresolved issues. This is a valuable source of information for you. You learn more about your counterpart through their reaction to your silence than through 1,000 words. At the same time, manipulations or hidden intentions often reveal themselves when they meet with no response. Fifth, creating a powerful presence, aura. All these factors, conserved energy, a strong inner center, an aura of mystery, and the ability to mirror projections, lead to a noticeable change in your charisma. Your presence becomes calmer, deeper, more powerful. People subconsciously sense your inner strength and confidence. This is what we often refer to as a strong aura. You attract respect and often positive attention, not by making loud demands, but by being quiet. The crucial question now is, how do you practice this powerful silence without appearing passive, ignorant, or arrogant? It's not about simply withdrawing or ignoring others. Powerful silence is an active, conscious inner attitude. Here are some practical tips. Conscious breathing. When you feel the urge to speak, focus on your breath instead. Breathe deeply and calmly into your belly. This calms your nervous system and creates an inner pause. Inner grounding. Imagine roots growing deep into the earth from your feet. Feel the stability and connection to the ground. This helps you stay centered even when there is turmoil around you. Observe your thoughts. Notice the thoughts and emotions that arise within you, but don't identify with them. Observe them like clouds passing by in the sky. Make a conscious decision not to react to every impulse. Present posture. Your silence should not appear like you are shrinking away. Sit or stand upright, but relaxed. Maintain calm, open eye contact when appropriate. That signals presence without staring. Your body language communicates your inner attitude. Inner mantra. If it helps, Repeat a calming phrase internally such as, "I am calm and centered," or "I am just observing," or even, "My silence is my strength." Know when to speak. Powerful silence does not mean never speaking again. It means consciously choosing when words are necessary and constructive, and when silence is the wiser, more powerful choice. When you speak, do so from a centered state, with clear and thoughtful words. The art of silence is a journey of self-discovery and self-mastery. It requires practice and courage, as it often contradicts our deeply ingrained habits and the expectations of our noisy world. But the rewards are immense: deeper inner peace, a stronger charisma, improved relationships, and the ability to remain confident and authentic even in difficult situations. Start small. Experiment with conscious silence in situations that feel safe. Observe the reactions, your own and those of others. You will be amazed at the power of silence. You will feel your aura grow, not through what you say, but through what you consciously choose not to say. This is the wisdom Carl Jung teaches us. We often find the greatest treasures not in the noise of the outside world, but in the deep, unfathomable silence of our own selves. If you are ready to embark on this journey and discover the transformative power of silence in your life, I would be happy to accompany you. Share your thoughts and perhaps your first experiences in the comments, and subscribe to the channel for more deep insights into the wisdom of the psyche and the secrets of a fulfilled life. Your journey to quiet strength begins now. The actual part of the video is now over. You can feel relieved for today. But there's one more thing. You've learned how your silence empowers you, how it strengthens your aura and protects you from manipulation. You may think you've mastered the game, but what if I told you that this was only the surface? What if there is a hidden flip side to this potent silence, a shadow frequency that hardly anyone talks about, but which Jung hinted at in his most profound writings? What if your conscious silence is not just a protective shield, but under certain circumstances can become an invisible weapon? A weapon that not only defends, but can actively distort, even destroy the inner reality of your counterpart, perhaps without you even intending to. Imagine that your silence creates not just an empty mirror, but a distorted echo chamber. A chamber in which the unconscious fears and shadows of the other person are not only reflected, but amplified and thrown back at them until their psychological structure begins to crack. Jung spoke of the archetype of the trickster, that ambivalent figure who causes chaos, crosses boundaries, and often acts unconsciously. What if your powerful silence, used incorrectly or colored by unconscious motives, activates this trickster in you and unwittingly makes you the architect of another person's psychological destabilization? There is a specific quality to silence, a certain inner attitude that triggers this dark alchemy. It is not the calm, centered silence of the self we spoke of. It is a cold silence, a judgmental silence, a silence that not only sets boundaries, but radiates contempt or superior indifference. This silence communicates on a deep, non-verbal level. You are not worth my energy to respond. Your reality is irrelevant. For a fragile psyche, especially someone with unresolved attachment trauma or narcissistic traits, this message can be more devastating than any loud attack. It confirms the deepest fear, the fear of meaninglessness, of nothingness. Why am I revealing this to you now? Not to scare you or give you a new tool for manipulation, but for two reasons. First, to encourage you to engage in radical self-examination. When you use the power of silence, do you do so from a place of integrity, clarity, and self-respect? Or do unconscious anger, revenge, or the desire for superiority sometimes come into play? Are you truly aware of the potential effect your silence has on others? Second, and perhaps more importantly, You need to learn to protect yourself from this dark side of silence when it is directed against you. Because people who use this technique, perhaps unconsciously or consciously, can deeply unsettle and manipulate you, precisely because you have learned to appreciate the power of silence. So welcome to the bonus section, the engine room of psychological alchemy, only for those who are ready to understand the dark side of power. Here I reveal the 3 secrets I promised you. First, the 3 telltale signs of manipulative or destructive silence. How can you tell whether your counterpart's silence is a sign of strength or an attack? The freezing silence. It doesn't feel calm or present, but icy, disparaging, almost like punishment. You feel a sudden chill in the room or in your own energy. It's as if warmth is being actively drawn out of you. The other person's gaze may be empty or fixed, but without real contact. This silence is intended to unsettle you, shame you, and block your energy. The timing silence. Manipulative silence is often used strategically, precisely when you are emotionally vulnerable, have to make an important decision, or need support. It is not the silence of reflection, but the silence of deliberately withholding confirmation or help in order to make you compliant or punish you. Pay attention to the pattern. When exactly does the person fall silent, and what are they trying to achieve? The physical dissonance silence. The person is silent, but their body language screams aggression, contempt, or superior boredom. Small signals such as rolling your eyes, a mocking smile, demonstrative sighing, impatient drumming with your fingers, or a dismissive posture reveal the true intention behind the silent facade. Here, silence is just a mask for passive-aggressive behavior. Second, Jung's concept of the negative constellation and the power of cold silence. Jung described how certain situations or interactions can activate unconscious complexes or shadow aspects within us. He called this a constellation. A negative constellation means that our fears, feelings of inferiority, and destructive patterns are activated. Cold, judgmental silence is an extremely potent trigger for such negative constellations. When someone treats us with contempt or indifference, which is signaled by cold silence, it often strikes at our deepest wounds, the fear of not being good enough, of not being loved, of being meaningless. These primal fears are constellated, i.e., activated, and flood our consciousness. We suddenly feel small, guilty, wrong, without perhaps knowing exactly why. The other person's cold silence acts as a catalyst, turning our own inner shadows against us. The trickster in the silent person has awakened our inner critic. Third, the protective technique of the energy filter. How can you protect yourself from this cold, judgmental silence that can trigger your negative constellations? Simple grounding is often not enough here. You need an active filter. Imagine your aura not just as a protective shield, but as a semi-permeable membrane with intelligent filters. When you sense cold, judgmental silence directed at you, consciously visualize this filter. Imagine how the icy, disparaging energy of silence hits your aura, but the filter recognizes its quality. It allows neutral or positive energy to pass through, but the specific frequency of contempt, indifference, or attack is identified and neutralized or transformed before it reaches your inner system. You can imagine how this negative energy rolls off your filter, evaporates, or is even transformed into neutral or positive energy, e.g., into compassion for the inner emptiness of the sender. The key is your conscious intention not to let this frequency into your system. Say to yourself, I recognize this energy. It does not belong to me. My filter neutralizes it. Combine this with calm breathing and grounding. It takes practice, but over time, you can learn to activate this filter almost automatically as soon as you perceive manipulative silence. You remain emotionally untouched, clear, and centered, while the attack falls flat. This deeper knowledge of the dark side of silence and how to protect yourself from it is essential on the path to true mastery. It empowers you to use the power of silence ethically and consciously while protecting yourself from its misuse. It is another step on your journey toward individuation, toward wholeness.